every morning that I start out, it's like I start from zero, and it's like I didn't do it for like 6 hours the day before. I'm halfway through cleaning this client's barbecue, and I get a call from the secretary, and he's like, I thought I told you to do a good job. And he's like, you better get over here. Like, this guy's pissed. Like, he's pissed. My ego's also hurt, right? Because I'm like, I put a lot of pride into what I do. Like, how can this be? And I lift it up, and like, this guy's like crazy, right? There goes everything that I just worked for, right? Like, I just screwed over the company. The impression I think I ended up leaving with the company, like yeah, I messed up, but I like went back and I fixed it.
I'm really excited to bring you my first ever podcast where I interview a friend of mine, Zach Gomes, who I've known for over 18 years now, and he has accomplished quite a few things at just the young age of 22. He is the first franchise owner of a company called Canadian Barbecue Boys, soon to be known as Grill Hero, and he's got 11 employees under that umbrella, and he has some fascinating stories about the journey and what it took to get him to the point that he's at today, and how he did all of it in just 4 short years. So without further ado, let's get into the podcast. So fun fact for everyone watching, camera was off, so we're gonna start again. Okay, I talked about skydiving. Would you ever go skydiving?
Yeah, honestly, to get me to go skydiving. To get me to go skydiving, I would probably have to be incentivized financially. Like, I don't think I could do that for free. Like you said, it feels like dying. I'm already scared of heights, and then you add the whole plummeting thing, and you know that's a bit too much for my heart to handle, I think.
How much would it take to bribe you?
How much would it take to bribe me? Look, I'm a little bit easy. I think if you
$50,
$50, yeah, maybe a little bit more than that. You know, maybe like $1,000, $2,000. That's enough. It's pretty safe, right? Like, I don't know the stats in that. You have to pull that up.
Yeah, technically speaking, like, it's pretty safe from what I've seen. I mean, like the instructors who go with you every single time, they're not dead yet, right? Yeah. So logically speaking, there's nothing to be afraid of. No. But it's just like this weird psychological thing where you're just like, oh, I'm gonna die.
Right, like there's a first for everything. Like, we were at Halloween Haunt, and we went on the Thunder Run. I don't know if you know too much about the rides, right? Yeah. I looked it up before going into the ride, and I'm like, you know, how bad is this? Like, is there any like loops?
Is that the like 90-degree drop one? Or
no, it's not. It goes through a mountain, right? But I'm just like, just to be sure, I want to make sure there's nothing like too crazy in this. Yeah. And yeah, sure enough, just dips and drops. And so we go on, and there's like little kids on the ride behind me, right? They're like having the time of their life. The ride starts, and I'm like, dude, I'm regretting this so hard. I close my eyes, right? Yeah. And then we're going up this tunnel, and the next thing you know, you're just going like this, right? Yeah. And like, you're just shaking. I'm like, dude, did I put the belt on right? Like, I'm gonna swing off of this ride. I'm gonna be the first casualty, and I'm just praying it finishes. Like, I hear the kids screaming behind me. They're like, woo! And like, I'm screaming too, and I'm like, get me off this thing. And then, you know, we finish the ride. Like, we get back to the start. I'm like, yo, like, finally, like, let me out, right? Yeah. Then we start going again. And then it's the same thing. I'm like, holy crap, right? But then on the second time, when I knew what was coming, like, it really wasn't that bad. Yeah. And then, you know, we got off, and I'm like, oh, like, we got to do that again. Yeah. So I'm assuming with skydiving, for those people who are going every single time, like, it's just routine. It can't be that bad.
That's a very interesting, like, kind of psychological point about the fact that once you do something once, the fear slowly, maybe not immediately, but slowly tends to go away. Like, I've been making a lot more phone calls, and growing up in the generation that we've grown up in, we're used to texting, right? We're used to texting, messaging, whatever. So literally just picking up the phone and calling someone that you've known for a pretty long time is kind of an experience on its own, which sounds really stupid to be saying, because it's like, you know, these people, it's a phone call. Like, why is that psychologically so challenging? How often, like, would you say you have to call people, and how long would you say it took you to kind of like go from, I don't know what the hell to say on the phone to, I have no time left today, I need to call this person and get shit done?
You know what's interesting? I always start out the day when, let's say I'm doing cold calling or door-to-door sales, or, you know, even just delivering flyers. So, you know, going door-to-door, talking occasionally to people. Every morning that I start out, it's like I start from zero, and it's like I didn't do it for like 6 hours the day before. And it's like I have to get into the rhythm of doing it before it's like, wow, like, I can do this. Like, this is, you know, like, well, it's not easy, but it's doable. I would say for me, it's definitely, it's more so the door-to-door sales that I'm doing, because I'm trying to get into people's backyards, I'm trying to see their barbecue so I can see the condition of it. Maybe talk to them about things that they might need to get done to it if I'm seeing like rusted grates, flavorizer bars. And that's really like the main goal for me is to get into the backyard. I honestly forgot the question though, so I forget what I'm answering.
No, that was a good answer. It's you basically have to restart every morning, right? Like it doesn't really carry over day to day, but I think what you're kind of getting at is that once you get the first win, the momentum, you just have to keep going with the momentum, right? Yeah. So like once you get the first win, you get someone you're door knocking or cold calling and someone actually opens a door and doesn't slam it in your face and actually gives you a conversation. That's a lot better for sure. Like it makes the next series of doors a lot easier to continue knocking on. I wanted to talk about generally like your journey with this company. So for the audience, because I'm not sure if the last part was even recorded, the company we're talking about is now called Grill Hero. It used to be called Canadian Barbecue Boys. I'm like kind of interested in like how the Dragon's Den thing fits into the whole like business because I was doing some analysis with like myself and I was kind of thinking about this, and most service-based businesses, it is hard to get off the ground. Like I did the landscaping thing for a year and that was challenging to build up a clientele, but I think having that publicity of Dragon's Den was probably one of the greatest boosters to growth that they could have asked for. I don't know if they ended up getting an investment, but I know that they were actually on, and just being televised, I think, was probably a huge help. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It was a huge help, honestly. So I wasn't on the company when they were on Dragon's Den, and so it was part of the incentivization for me to join the company was seeing these other students start this business and end up on Dragon's Den. Like it was just unfathomable to me. And so I'm like, I've got to join these guys. In my first season working with the company and doing the cleanings and actually doing the field work, a lot of the clients they were like, oh, I saw you on Dragon's Den, I had to try you guys out. And nice. In the first few seasons there was a lot of that, right? Mm-hmm. But as you go on, like it became less of that. So it's almost like a lot of the growth was driven by that Dragon's Den episode. Mm-hmm. But later on, it's like you're getting the people who were referred by those people after the whole market just exploded for that.
Yeah, and I think specifically for service-based like companies like that, it's hard to it's hard to sell people something when they might not even know that it was something they needed. Right? For me personally, like when I'm thinking of, like barbecues and stuff, like it barely crosses my mind to have it professionally cleaned, right? So how do you package something in a way to address a market that like is there, but you not only have to like have a good service, but you have to make people aware that the service exists in the first place. Like, do you ever get people being like, oh, I didn't even know you could do that?
Yes, no, that's a great point. I think the founders initially did a great job of, I guess, creating like the value proposition and delivering it, door to door. I mean, those guys were going door to door for the whole day, providing the cleanings and really like generating buzz around the service or about the service. The service existed before Canadian Barbecue Boys. Actually, that's a bit about how it started. The owner, they got the service done by somebody, and the guy had to drive a few hours to come in. Right. They paid a ridiculous amount of money, and the service was really poor. So then, him and his buddy, they decided, like, look, we could provide the service, probably for a better price, better quality. And sure enough, that's what they did. They just went door to door, started creating that market. And then once they realized that there were a lot of people interested in the service as they were going door to door, I guess they realized it was about generating as much buzz as possible, making as many people aware that the service needs to be done and can be done, and that's what it was all about moving forward.
Yeah, I think that kind of branding strategy is like extremely impressive because they not only were able to, I guess, capture a local market, but they were able to expand throughout most of the southern Ontario, right? And that's a huge market. There's, I don't know how many people, but millions of people in that entire market. And they were able to kind of not only, service, but they were able to grow as well, which are both very like hard things to do to scale like that. What do you think contributed to the ability to scale? Was it like the founder's expertise? Was it their ability to hire? Was it a combination of things? Like how did scaling this business work? And I know because you joined in 2018 or 2019?
Yeah, 2019.
And they started 2017, so one of the first-ish employees. Do you know what number employee you were?
To be honest, I don't. I actually don't think I was as early as possible. I think there was a season they operated before and they had a team, maybe 2 seasons. So I'm trying to think of the timelines. I think they were actually maybe founded in 2016. We're gonna have to go back and fact check that and maybe put that in the video.
Fact check.
but anyway, I was there still like pretty early.
Yeah.
I think it was just a combination of everything. I mean, obviously they did an incredible job of marketing the service, getting employees. Actually, the way I learned about the business was the owners, both of them at the time, or the founders, they followed me on Instagram when I'd gotten into university. They were also University of Guelph students, right?
Nice.
They followed, and then I noticed they followed everyone. Like,
that's so smart.
Right? Like everyone in my tower, they got follow requests. I'm like seeing like, oh, like why are they following like 60 people in my grade? And then the account also did, Canadian Barbecue Boys Instagram. And you know, you already know where this is going, right? I look in the caption and it sees like founded by this and this, like on Dragon's Den. So it piques my interest and I learn more about the business. And then I see that they're also hiring and they're gonna be at these job fairs, and that's kind of when it gets a little bit more interesting, right? And even on LinkedIn, I also saw them. So I guess that was their approach. And it's funny because I'd say to my friends, I'm like, yo, did Canadian Barbecue Boys follow you? And they're like, yeah, we got a follow request from that.
Such a good way to leverage the like student network. I'm impressed. Like that is it makes sense if you're like a university student, but to do, wow, I'm impressed just by that single fact.
So they had followed me. I stalked their Instagram pages. I looked at the Canadian Barbecue Boys account, and I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. And at the time, I really wanted to get into entrepreneurship, and it was all clicking for me. I'm like, these other student entrepreneurs made it on Dragon's Den. I could be learning from these guys, and if the company's still early, maybe I could get into like a management role, because it said that there were management roles available, and that could be my way into entrepreneurship.
No, it's super cool, like how you kind of found them initially. How did you end up getting the interview with them?
Yeah, so one day I was actually lying in bed after class. I had a long night studying, of course. Definitely nothing else.
No, nothing else. Only studying, mom and dad.
Yeah, if you're watching this. And I had an investment council meeting. It was at 7 p.m. And then there was also a job fair. I think it started at around 6:30. And so I'm like, okay, I can go to the investment council meeting at 7, or I can go to the job fair and I can try to talk to these guys, make a good impression, and maybe get an interview down the line. And so basically I'm like, okay, you know what, maybe I can do both. I'll just tell the investment council I'll be late. And so I put my suit and tie on and I run over to the job fair. And first thing I see like a big crowd and lines to RBC, TD, like CIBC, all the big companies. Big boys, And then I'm looking over, I'm like filtering through, and then I see Canadian Barbecue Boys, and then I see them, and I'm like, holy crap! It's the guys that follow me on Instagram. Like here it is, right? And actually, right before this, I thought I wasn't going to be able to make it to meet them, so I sent them a message on Instagram. I still have the message on Instagram, and I was like, hey guys, I'm a first year economics and finance student looking to get in entrepreneurship. I'm not going to be able to make it to the fair, but is there any way we can schedule an interview type of thing, right? I told them that one day I wanted to start my own business, and I thought that it would be a great experience to work with them. Anyway, I'm seeing them, and I'm like, okay, look, I'll just say exactly what I said in the message. I'll just say it to them here. And I go, there's only a couple of guys talking to them, and we talk for a little bit, and I'm like, wow, they're super chill guys. And sure enough, I managed to get an interview after that. It was just a 2-stage process. And then next thing you know, I was hired onto the company. January, they brought me on for some events. Like we went to some home shows, some door-to-door, some flyering activities. And then we started the cleanings in April, was when I really got into that first cleaner role. And then from there, it was a whole long adventure for me. It was crazy.
No, that's super cool. I remember going to like some of my own job fairs too. And like some of the companies there, like they're mostly technology companies, but I ended up getting an interview with Intel, and I think there were about 5 or 6 interviews that you needed to get through in order to get hired. So that's another benefit of a smaller company, I would say, is the fact that there aren't so many layers of people to go through to actually get in the door, right? So that was super cool. And I like that you also kind of just like went out and like you sent them that message, right? Saying like, hey, look, I'm super interested. And it was probably easier for them once you showed up in person to put a face to a name, right? And be like, oh, actually, I think I might have remembered that guy. Even if they didn't, it was probably somewhere back in their subconscious. and then you had a good conversation with them. Yeah, okay. So then you started kind of like cleaning barbecues. Was it difficult to like, I guess, learn that trade? Like, was it when you were first starting out, like how did you train? Like, was it challenging in the beginning, or did you pick it up pretty quickly?
Right. So, the company's definitely implemented better training procedures now and over the years. But when I first started, the way that we kind of did it was they had a barbecue at the front, and they had an office at the time. Yeah. And I think there was around 10 or 12 of us guys at the time. We would basically watch how they would clean the barbecue at the front, right? But at the time, there wasn't really any actual demonstrations. Like, I wasn't able to try anything out for myself. Mm-hmm. So when I was going to clean my first barbecue, I essentially knew nothing. My parents had a barbecue. I never used it. Yeah. I just watched them do it. I never actually cleaned a barbecue before, right? And I wasn't much of a cleaner. So honestly, I was so anxious that first day, right? My heart was pounding. The day started for me, I think it was at 7:30. Yeah. And the procedure is pretty simple, like with most service businesses. I called the customer and I let them know I was on the way. Yeah. And I asked them, look, you guys have the gas turned off and everything, the usual procedure. Mm-hmm. And I get there and I see this barbecue and it's massive. Like, first thing, the house is gorgeous, right? It's a Mississauga Road mansion, of course. Yeah. But the barbecue is huge. It was Weber Summit. Yeah. And at the time, I'm like, whatever, Summit. Like, yeah, that's the perfect way to describe that thing. Like, that thing is freaking massive. Yeah. Anyway, it's raining too, right? It's April. I just finished exams. Yeah. Like, God knows if I passed at the time, right? So I was still in that state of mind where I'm like, oh man, like this is what I'm into. Anyway, it's pouring on me. I start setting up the tarp. I'm like, okay, step one, because I made like the notes on my phone that they had in the training. Yeah. I'm like, all right, step one, I need to set the tarp up and plug in the cord. But then in my head, I'm like, oh, it's raining, like electricity. I'm gonna get shocked, right? But I'm like, the show goes on, right? So anyway, I plug in the cord and I get into the cleaning process. I set up the tarp. Yeah. And I set up the job site, right? I open it up and, dude, the thing is nasty, right? Like, it's caked in grease. It's all black. The grates are supposed to be silver, right? Yeah. Like, there wasn't a hint of any sort of that on this model, right? I look on the back, it's completely, like, caked out. I'm like, oh, God, help me, man. Like, this is awful, right?
Great first job.
I know. I'm, like, looking at my supplies, and I'm just like, how am I going to get from, like, with these to clean barbecue? I'm like, wait, what does the clean barbecue even look like again? Like, what is it supposed to look? And at this point, I'm like, okay, I can still quit, right? Like, they can figure it out. Yeah. But, I'm like, fine. I talked myself up to these guys. Like, I can't leave now.
I can't back out.
And I also had this whole mindset thing where it's like, if I want to get into business, I have to do something that it's difficult for other people to do. Yeah. I mean, I think that's just like the business landscape nowadays, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Like, and anyway, I got to cleaning and it was bad.
How long did it take you?
It took me maybe around 5-6 hours. Nice. To finish the grates, and then I moved on to the rest of the barbecue. No, maybe not 5-6 hours, but in total it took me around 7 hours to finish the first barbecue maybe. And anyway, at this point it maybe was 2 p.m. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I got to get to my next one, right? So I call the guy and I'm already like 3 hours late. I'm like, hey man, sorry, I'm going to be a bit late, right? Yeah. And I get there, still pouring rain, and same thing. I cut my hand though this time because I wasn't wearing gloves. I'm kind of an idiot. Okay. And at that point I'm like, yeah, I'm done. Like I can't work this job, right? Like I quit in my head, but I'm like, whatever. For now, I'll just do the best job that I can on this. Yeah. And when the customer came out, the rain stopped. Yeah. Like maybe like 30 minutes before, so I was able to put like a nice layer of polish on it, and it was actually shining. The sun actually popped out, man. It was like a scene from the movie. Like there was a rainbow. And like the barbecue is just shining, and this guy comes out and he's like, wow, like that looks like amazing. Like he's like, it looks almost brand new, right? And I'm like, he's got to be lying because he hasn't even opened the thing yet. But dude, he opens it up and he's like, yeah, that looks really good. He's like, I didn't realize it can get like that. And that gave me so much like dopamine that I'm just like, wow, like I can do this, right? And the next day, same thing. I get up, I'm like, holy crap, like what the am I doing? And then, same thing. I figured it out. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the start, where it's like, before starting it, I'm like, holy crap, like how am I going to do this? And then you just keep doing it, you get into the rhythm, and it's crazy.
Every day is like another new challenge to face, right? And you just have to keep doing it. Like, it doesn't matter how you feel, you just do it. You're just like, I'm doing this. Okay, how long would you say that first job that took you about 7 hours would take you today?
Yeah, that's a great question. That same job that I got, and I actually reviewed the photos earlier on in the season, it would probably take me around like 1.5 to 2 hours now.
Wow, okay, big difference.
Crazy difference, right?
Wow, okay, did you like upgrade the tools? Did you upgrade or was it just more your technique that got better?
I think it was just a combination of everything. Like in the years that followed, we definitely like refined the cleaning process a lot more. I got more confident using like the machine part that we got, like this, which is really just a drill with the wire attachment and some other materials, which I can't say. And definitely refined that, and just a combination of that. Yeah, I could definitely get it done 1.5 hours and make it look a lot better than it looked. Right? Like,
do like the whole polish and everything. Yeah, that's super cool. Okay, so after working, I guess, for a little bit in that first summer, how did you feel like towards the end?
Near the end, I was extremely confident. At this point, there were so many clients who were happy with the work that I was providing.
It's so helpful when a client's like, great job, man. You're like, thank you.
Yeah, like, please give me your validation. Right? Like, that's it. Like, I need it.
Yeah, I'm out here filming this podcast. Give me the validation.
Yeah, exactly. Like, please. And but by the end of it, I was just so confident. I was honestly enjoying the role. Like, the weather was great. And I was like, yeah, this is great. This has so much potential, so much opportunity. I was seeing everything grow like in front of my eyes, and I was just so happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. And I know at some point, I don't know if it was that same year, but I know you got a promotion because I saw it on LinkedIn and I liked it. I don't know if it was that year or the next, but how did that come about? And like, were you involved in other parts of the business as well in order to get to a point where you got promoted?
Right. Well, I always loved cleaning barbecues, right? But I knew that I didn't want to be doing that for the rest of my time with Barbecue Boys. I wanted to just keep learning as much as I could about the back end. And I made that clear pretty much from the start that I wanted to be involved, especially in the managerial duties. And sure enough, the opportunity came up. The owner at the time, he told me that the position was available and that I had proven myself worthy for that.
Nice.
And he gave it to me, and that's kind of when my role started to shift. In my second season is when I got the promotion to the management role, the territory manager. But we were so busy with all the cleanings that I still ended up cleaning almost every single day. And this is when I actually started working with my partner, my girlfriend, who actually still works for the company, and we're still together. But we started cleaning the barbecues together. And that was just a whole another summer of, obviously it was a lot of fun. We were cleaning 3-4 barbecues together. And also on the side, I was trying to do some sales activities, for the company and part of my new role with the managing side of things. We had a group chat, and occasionally I try to give tips in the group chat, but my actual managerial side of it, where I actually started managing things, was more so my third year of the company. That year is mainly about the cleanings.
Yeah. Okay. So in the like small sales stuff at the beginning, what kind of like sales activities, like what skills did you pick up in that season of just kind of like dabbling in sales? Like, what were some things that I think like that now today are valuable to you that you picked up back then? Right.
I think at the start we were just delivering flyers, and we didn't really have the intention of doing the door-to-door sales. So how it really started for me was people would be doing gardening in the front, and then I'm like, if I'm going up to their door and I'm putting this flyer in their mailbox, I may as well talk to them, right? And that's exactly what it is. They see the flyer and they'd be like, oh, Canadian Barbecue Boys. And then they'd flip it over and they'd be like, oh, that's seen on Dragon's Den. And they'd ask about that. And I'd be like, oh, okay, maybe I should try to transition this into a sale. And that's when I started getting into their backyards a little bit. I'm like, yeah, you know what? If you can let me see your barbecue, then maybe I can give it a look, see if there's anything you might need replaced or maybe cleaned. And that's really how it started for me. And then I learned, just conversating with these people, and just being genuine. Of course, I didn't just go right into being like, oh, let me see your barbecue, but saying, oh, I love your flowers, I love your petunias. And then transitioning to be like, now can I see your barbecue, please?
Okay, that's good. That's a good tip too for salespeople, because I know some salespeople just go up door to door and they're like, let me sell you on this service, instead of like trying to actually have a conversation like there's another person. like that you interrupted their day. You may as well give them 30 seconds to have a chat, and if they don't want to, you move on to the next one. You're a bit of a self-starter in the sales department, so The following year after that really turned into, I guess, a manager, let's call it. So what happened that year? Like, what were you managing? Like, how did your job change again? And this is I just want to say this is a fast timeline, right? Like, a lot of people don't like from one year to the next, their roles don't change that much. So it's quite impressive that you were able to kind of, I guess, keep that momentum rolling into, I guess, ultimately what you actually wanted to do, which we'll get to.
Yeah, I guess, honestly, I was really lucky. I was there at the right time when the company was still, very small.
Yeah.
And I just showed a lot of initiative. And, when there's not that many people to compete with, it definitely makes it a lot easier for you to move forward.
For sure, yeah.
I was definitely lucky they gave me the opportunities to do that. Right. And, I worked hard to capitalize on those opportunities. In my third year, my role more so transitioned, like I said, to the managerial work, but more so in the retail department that we were trying to grow at the time, and we still are. But we also found that there was another big market in people who needed work done on their barbecue. People who just, you have to think, they're leaving their barbecues outside in the rain, often uncovered. Yeah. And so what's going to happen to the parts is they're obviously going to rust out and they become borderline unusable.
Right.
And instead of throwing out the whole thing, we wanted to encourage people to just replace the parts, get it cleaned, and it's like you have a new barbecue again, right?
Right.
And so that's kind of the department that I was very interested at the time, and especially the e-commerce side of things. So I asked if I could kind of do a lot of that work. And that basically entailed running the Shopify store, a whole ton of product input, and just product fulfillment,
So were you you were kind of talking with suppliers to figure out what parts you could sell through the store?
Yeah, essentially. So we would actually order parts from various manufacturers directly and store it at in a warehouse. Nice. And others we would just do drop ship. If there was for barbecue models that were really, really unique, there's no point ordering those parts in bulk. And a lot of barbecue parts are extremely unique. You'll have a Weber Genesis from 2004 that will have parts that's not compatible with 2010, right? Or they'll have an extra burner so it's bigger, and you know what I mean? So it's really important that we get to go to the customer's house, get the exact model number, serial number, get the exact information, put it in the job file, and then basically our service technicians would say, okay, this client wants a quote on these parts, and it was my responsibility to make sure all of those files were being followed up on, all the clients were getting quotes on their parts, and then we would schedule dates and everything and find ways to fulfill those appointments to get let's say the burners installed when people aren't comfortable with that.
Yeah. Okay. That's honestly a lot more complicated than I thought it would be. Sure, I guess because that's a whole new branch of the business, right? Because at first you were just cleaning, and then you wanted to get into repairs as well, kind of a full service business, right?
Yeah.
And I guess the question is that I'm thinking is it kind of one branch, the sales and online branch of the business is selling directly to your service people, kind of? You only sell to your customers, or is the store online where anyone can shop for a part?
So it's a combination of both. Anybody could go on the website, and people do go on the website and just buy parts from us. But a great way for us to initially generate traffic to the site and to generate the sales and really get the store going was just within our own network. Yeah. And it just so happened that a lot of people did want the parts, but just did not want to go through the work of ordering them and installing them. And we could provide everything at once, including the cleaning. Just a full service that, it was just easy for them to go with us.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So that's really cool. So you guys diversified too.
Yeah.
So the business is not just cleaning barbecues, it's diversified.
Yeah, exactly. It's also maintenance and repairs, inspections. It's the whole deal now.
Nice. Okay, that's really cool. So you got to see that development and be a part of it, which is awesome. Okay, so I guess once you've done that experience, what was next? What happened after that?
Yeah, so like I said, it was mainly just that, but I also did help out with managing some of the actual personnel in the area that I was in, which is just the Guelph kitchen in Waterloo. I was living in Guelph at the time. Yeah. The market there wasn't as big as it is now, so there's only a couple of guys to manage, so it wasn't too serious, but just making sure they had their supplies. If they had any issues with clients, that I would address those situations. Sometimes it would entail driving over, fixing the situations myself, and then doing the other tasks that I had on an ongoing basis. I just wanted to be as involved as possible to get as much experience as I could.
Yeah. What's the, if you can tell me, what is one of the, I guess, weirdest or worst kind of client problems you've had? Because I know in anything where you're dealing with customer service, sometimes your customers may not be all that reasonable. So do you have any stories that are kind of fun to share?
I do, man, I do. And this was actually a pretty transformative one for me.
Okay.
It was my first year at the company.
Yeah.
And, obviously I was trying to make a huge impression on the company. I didn't want to make any mistakes or have like any unsatisfied customers, right?
Yeah.
And I was doing a really good job of that until one day I had this one client. And obviously this guy was loaded. He had a secretary, and he booked the appointment for me. And he was basically telling me like, look, please do a good job, right? Yeah. And I'm just like, okay, that's kind of why would you say please do a good job? Like, obviously you're paying me to do a good job.
Yeah.
Like, that's the expectation. Yeah. But it's like I detected a little bit of fear in his voice. So I'm like, oh man, like this is what I'm getting myself into.
It's already a rough start.
Right? And I get there and it's this beautiful like built-in stainless steel, like all stainless steel, shining already, like barbecue. I'm like, wow, like okay, this is what I'm gonna clean. Yeah. So I set up and he's not there. I get right into it and I'm cleaning, and by the end of it, like I think it looks great, right? I'm like, wow, this is beautiful. I take my pictures and I talk to his son and I'm like, can you just make sure this is all good before I leave? Yeah. And I guess he doesn't care. He's like, yeah, that looks great. Yeah. So I leave and I go to the next client, right? Yeah. I'm halfway through cleaning this client's barbecue, and I get a call from the secretary, and he's like, I thought I told you to do a good job. And he's like, you better get over here. Like, this guy's pissed. Like, he's pissed. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this has never happened to me. Like, I'm so scared because I'm like, I gotta drive back. Like who is this guy, right? He's like some like Tony Soprano. Like why are you so scared of this guy? Yeah. So
that's not good when the secretary's freaking out. Like no, like that's really bad.
It's not right over like an unclean barbecue. I'm like, holy cow! Like I thought it was great. So whatever. Let's see what he has to say. Yeah. I go back and it's this extremely huge, big guy, like probably ex-linebacker. God knows, he's like 5'9". You might have to look at a picture, but Kingpin in Spider-Man, you can put a picture of him. That's what he looked like. Okay. And so anyway, he's fuming, like he's red. He's actually red, and I'm like, oh my God, like what did I do, right? Yeah. And he's like, you got grease on this, like on the tiles. You got grease on the patio, and I'm like, what the like when, right? And he's like, this is unclean. He's like, what the did you do? And I'm like, oh God, like my ego's also hurt, right? Because I'm like, I put a lot of pride into what I do. Yeah. Like, how can this be? And I lift it up, and like this guy's like crazy, right? Because usually I'm like very, very understanding. I can see the issues, but he's like pointing out maybe like a tiny fleck in like the very, very bottom. And I'm like, okay, fine. That's fair. Like, I'll clean that up. Yeah. And as I'm trying to get this stuff and clean up, he's like screaming like in my ear, like just swearing at me. Like there's spit coming out of his mouth. Like I'm getting like splattered with that. Yeah. And this is completely foreign to me. I'm just taking it. And then anyway, I'm like, okay, sir, like I just need to go and get my stuff. I'll come back and I'll clean everything up. And then you can, make sure it's all good before you go. Yeah. Or before I go. Anyway, I go to my car, I get my stuff, and I'm like, I set up the job site. And I can hear him screaming at like the secretary, and I know that the owners are there because they're at the office listening in. Yeah. And I'm just like, holy crap! Like there goes everything that I just worked for, right? Like I just screwed over the company. And I get a call from them, and they tell me some products to go pick up to clean the stone, because there was actually like a couple of drops, nothing too crazy, a couple of drops, but enough that it's like it's fair. Yeah. And I'm like, the whole time I'm just like, wow, like I can't keep doing this, like this is too much. And I'm getting the product. I go back to the guy's house. Oh my god, dude! I swear to God, I have to go back again, and he was still screaming at like the staff. And I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna clean this, right? I'm like mid-cleaning it. And I'm hearing him like talk so much trash about me, talking about how like I was unqualified, and I just like I just had to leave, like go to another street. I just sat on a curb and I just started crying, man. I'm like, bro, I can't, man. I like broke down.
That's just straight abuse, man.
I know, it was so bad, right? Like now I would have just left and been like, I'll come back when you calm down, or not at all. Like we'll see what to do. Yeah. Because that's too much, right? Yeah. But I'm crying, and then I just go back. And I'm like, okay, look, sir, like I wipe it up. I wipe up the patio, and I'm like, it's clean. Like, here you go. And then he's just like, yes. He's like, this is perfect. He's like, this is what I was looking for. And I'm just like, I barely made a difference on the barbecue or the stone, like, because the stone was pretty much clean. Yeah. But it's just the attention and the time that I spent there, and I guess him letting everything out. Yeah. He was okay, and it was all good.
I think there is a lot of misdirected anger in that man's life. He really just took everything he was feeling out on you and the secretary. That's brutal. Mm-hmm. Holy crap. Okay. Wow. I'm surprised you went back the first time. Like, I haven't dealt with like anyone that's been like quite like that, but I've heard I've heard some general knowledge is like when someone's losing their mind, you kind of stay away a little bit. So I mean, you went back and you did what you said you would do, which is make sure everyone's happy. And I guess at the end it worked out, right? He was happy, but I think it probably didn't help you very much.
No, it didn't at first, definitely. I mean, I had to reflect on that a lot that same day. And at the end of the day, what I took from that was like he could talk to me and treat me however he wanted. Like if I was in danger, that would not have been good. I should have separated myself from that. Yeah. But at the end of the day, like I'm still going to go in and do my best. Yeah. And whatever I do, and in this case it was the cleaning and providing the service. And the impression I think I ended up leaving with the company, like I messed up, but I like went back and I fixed it. Yeah. And at the end of the day, like I slept well knowing that that's what I did to rectify it.
Yeah, no, that's very inspirational. I applaud you for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's some dedication. So that's definitely can be appreciated. After all of that stuff, let's get into, I guess, like now / very recently. What has happened with the company? Because I know there's a lot of like big changes happening, and that you were one of the first people involved in one of those really big changes.
Yes. So, the first big change is that we are, rebranding. Obviously, we're in the process of that into Grow Hero. But the major change is that we're franchising. We're selling franchises, and I have purchased the first franchise, and that's in the area of Peel, of course. And that's been exciting. Obviously fast forward over the following years as the company just started to grow and expand like crazy. COVID really helped us a lot. People staying home and investing more into their backyard. Right. That was huge for us. We were able to work. The government let us work because obviously we're working outside.
That's great timing too.
Huge timing. People had a ton of disposable income. Yeah. That gave us a chance to basically get new clients that we may have not initially gotten. And then those people gave us a crap ton of referrals. And it just really exploded like that. I mean, we literally had to shut off ads because of how much business we were getting. Damn. We just could not get enough people to fulfill the service. Yeah. Like it was really great for us. And then obviously with all that growth, we started getting interest in a lot of different parts of Canada, even like in the United States. Yeah. Places like Calgary, Vancouver, like a lot of interest. And we obviously were not going to be able to fulfill that. And so I think that's when the founder and the owner, that's when he saw the opportunity in franchising. Mm-hmm. And that's when we kind of looked within the company network. And given I had so much experience and success like within the company and the management, that it would make sense for me to be the first franchise partner and cool. Get it launched, get all the systems in place before we open it up. And now we've had a ton of interest in the franchising. We've been doing a lot of discovery days, showing it to a lot of potential franchisees. I'm not sure if I can say this, but I'll say it anyway. We actually have sold the first franchise to someone.
Nice.
If it doesn't go through, then you can cut that out.
Then tell me in post.
I'll confirm that with you. Maybe you might have to leave that out, but
no worries. No, that's awesome. So expanding in franchise, why do the franchise model?
The owner definitely took inspiration in 1-800 Got Junk, and their umbrella company Shack Shine, Wild Painting, and it is a pretty similar business like the home services, and it I guess made sense in terms of expansion. Like if you have people buy into the company and put in like a lot of money into the marketing and expanding the market in particular areas, then it's known to definitely help expand these service businesses. Yeah,
I think you might have told me once that they got inspiration from 1-800 Got Junk, but that's pretty cool. With the U.S. expansion, I feel like that's going to be more challenging. How do you? I guess the question about expanding further is how do you make sure that quality is maintained in the service if you're expanding to places that I guess people who were working in the company, like how do you make sure quality standards are met?
Yeah, I think the company has done a great job in developing like specific processes on delivering the service and maintaining the standards of quality and outlining what those standards are. Yeah. So I think those clear, concise standards definitely help maintain that. But really, it's just having access to the system and being able to review like ratings, company ratings, photos to see, if they're maintaining the right quality of service there. And it's also in the franchisee's best interest to, obviously upkeep that good standard.
Yeah, that makes sense. As far as, so I was thinking about franchising like models in general. And I know that that people tend to be limited with how much they can do on their own. And I know that when McDonald's was originally franchising, thanks to whatever that Netflix movie was, that the way that they really kind of kicked off and expanded beyond 6 restaurants was through a franchising model. As the franchisee, what are your responsibilities? What are the parent company's responsibilities?
Right. So essentially my responsibilities is just fulfilling the service and maintaining the standard of the service in Peel, right? And it's also generating sales and growing the market as much as I can and making sure the service is just accessible to as many people as possible. Mm-hmm. My job is a lot easier due to everything that the company provides. I mean, they run the call center and they run a really good call center where all I have to do is generate leads. And once those leads are submitted into the company, then the sales reps will actually follow up on those leads for me, and they're trained on how to do that, how to sell the value proposition. Yeah. And so essentially what it comes to is, even while I am interested in selling the service to as many people as possible through door-to-door sales, my main thing is actually generating leads. Right. I want to generate as many leads as I can and generate as much buzz as I can about the service. And the way that we have been doing that is through direct mail campaigns through Canada Post. I don't know if you know too much about that. I think we talked about that.
Yeah, we did a little bit.
A couple weeks ago. Door-to-door sales, like I said before, a lot of door hangers we've been doing. Yeah. And Facebook ads, online ads, lawn signs, just really going super aggressive on the field marketing, and just hoping that those translate into leads. We have more points of contact, hopefully through online ads. Hopefully people will talk about it. It's funny because every time someone's like, oh, I live on so-and-so street in Mississauga, then my first thing is okay, I want to go in the system and be like, have we serviced the client on that street? And now it's at the point where it's most streets that I'll type in, we'd have serviced the client there. And so then I'll ask those people, I'll be like, oh, have you ever heard of Canadian Barbecue Boys? I'm like, we actually, one of your neighbors, do you know so-and-so? And then,
Great starting line. Yeah. Just oh, we just helped your neighbor last week. And then they're like, oh, that's cool. And then, it's great. I love that. For direct mail, I think we did talk about it a little bit, but I think you said at some point, what you do is, if you were in an area recently, you'll kind of target a couple of streets around and then show up a couple days after the delivery happens so that kind of the flyer is fresh in their mind. And then it's kind of easier to sell to them. Have you found that is still working? Yeah,
so we have the data in different postal codes to see where we have, I guess, the most amount of jobs, and we try to target those areas. So we have, the top 3 postal codes in my region. Yeah. Those are the areas that I've really tried to pursue. Okay. So really, the process that I followed was to start off with the direct mail campaign and just try to make sure that all of those houses in those areas that meet the different demographics that I set on Canada Post, because you can set what the household income is, if they have kids, how many kids, what the age range is.
That's really cool.
Yeah, you can really specify it, and we know what our target market is. And so these 3 postal codes, we've coincidentally, well, not coincidentally, but obviously there's a correlation there, where we've done a really high amount of jobs there. So the first step was to just send them the direct mail, let them see the flyers. There was actually a discount code on that they can scan, or they can give to the sales rep. That way I can tell who actually booked in through that campaign, so I can at least see the tangible effects of that campaign. Obviously there's the intangible ones. And then the next step was to go through the same neighborhoods with the door hangers, which we actually ended up running through and hitting most of them with them. And then, the third thing was, like you said, then going door to door. And it's funny because when we were going to door and people were actually answering, most people heard about us from either the online ads or the direct mail campaign or the door hangers. Oh yeah, we got the door hanger. Or yeah, we saw the ad. Or some people were actually we've heard of people that used you, or or a couple we've used you before. One time I had someone who used the company and they had a bad experience with the company. Just years ago. Okay. And I ended up actually talking to them, and I think they booked again. Nice. So it's crazy.
Around. Yeah, no, that's cool. For marketing, how much do you as the franchisee, how much money do you end up not how much do you spend, but does the company have a particular ad spend? Do you pay them to help them advertise, or do you have to directly advertise on your own, or can you do both?
Right, so we can do both. There is a minimum ad spend. So with the franchise, I do have to spend 2% into the marketing fund.
Okay.
And that's perfectly fair because I actually don't have to run any of the ads myself.
Yeah.
I just give my budget to the marketing department and then they run all the ads for me.
Nice.
If I'm ever interested in running like a flyer campaign, let's say for oven cleanings or barbecue cleanings, I will just ask the marketing department to come up with some designs. And they'll make that for me, and then I'll choose which one I want, or I'll just ask them to make any certain type of modifications. They'll do that for me. I'll just pay to get it printed and everything like that, and then I'll handle the actual fulfillment of those myself.
Nice. So you really can kind of, I guess, do your own thing within the company's thing.
Yeah.
If you would want to, right? Like you can get the whatever design people, the marketing people to create something for you and then choose how much you want to spend. And so in some ways the growth of your franchise can be directly correlated to how much you're willing to work and spend and whatever.
Exactly. It's definitely encouraged, and there is a minimum ad spend that you do spend when you sign in the FTD.
Yeah.
And that just basically ensures that everybody who is signing up is going to invest into marketing, and that's really what's going to help us expand.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely, I'll be doing that, but also it's in our best interest to spend the money on marketing. We found that our ads do work, and most like every single time, every campaign that I've spent on, it's paid for itself.
Nice.
And so it's win-win.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a pretty powerful market to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it also has to obviously have like good ads and whatnot. Okay. What's next for Zach Gomes? What are you doing now? What are your hopes and dreams for this franchising thing, and what are you planning on doing next?
Right. Well, honestly, running the franchise has been great. It's been a great experience, honestly, and just really in the next few years, I really want to expand it. Peel is expanding, the barbecue cleaning market is expanding, and so is the services that we're offering, like oven cleaning. Obviously, I just want to grow the business as much as I can, and grow the team out as much as I can as well, that I have here in Peel. And then, I have a partner that I'm working with in the franchise right now. His name is Josiah.
Yeah.
The goal is that, maybe we'll buy another franchise in the future, kind of leverage all the resources that we have kind of going on in the area. And then really what I want to get into after that is real estate, and that's where you're going to help me
Let's
out.
go.
Pre-construction, all of that stuff. I mean, I really want to get into that.
I'm done. I've run out of steam. Do you have any other things that you feel like I missed, or anything else that you want to say?
Look, man, this is my third podcast.
Third podcast.
I mean, that sums it up perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, this is my first podcast, obviously. Oh, both of ours.
Yeah, okay, I've done podcasts on my own, but I haven't done a podcast interview, so this is my first podcast interview.
Well, this is our first podcast interview, if you couldn't tell from the everything. But no, thanks for having me on, man. It was a great experience. Definitely check out Canadian Barbecue Boys. Check the website.
Check out Canadian Barbecue Boys.
Check out the YouTube channel. They'll sum it up better than I did just now, 100%.
Yeah.
And hey, book a cleaning if you're in Mississauga, Peel. Actually, book it anywhere, actually, for the business.
Yeah, book it anywhere. Okay, well, I appreciate you coming on as well, and I know you took a lot of time out of your Saturday for this, so thank you for that. And we'll call it there, and the rest will be off camera. See you later.
Yeah.
Thank God. Yeah, that was good.